Hi, I'm Chris Sims. Welcome to the Local Dose. Well, I was born in Ohio, but I grew up in South Carolina in a town called Sumter, which was a small Air Force town about 40 miles east of Columbia. And I moved up to Durham last year, so I live in the Triangle now. Professionally, I've been a writer as my full-time job for about 8 years. Uh, but I decided when I was 12 years old that I wanted to be a professional writer as my job, which is a very weird thing to decide when you're 12, and a weirder thing to sort of have as your plan going forward. Um, I actually started writing. I got my first professional break when I was 17 in 1999, writing for a website. And thankfully, because I was 17, all of that is gone now. It has vanished from the internet. But it was kind of my first experience really getting freelance writing work. And it was very valuable for me, but unfortunately, right around 99, 2000, the dot-com bubble burst. And I ended up, instead of getting the check I was expecting for some writing I had done, I got a notice of termination of agreement, where I was essentially fired, like everyone was from this website. And that was really demoralizing for me. But I knew I still wanted to be a writer, so I started up a blog in 2005 at the suggestion of a friend of mine, Phil Looney. And from there, I've basically been writing every day. That led me to stuff like Cracked Magazine, stuff like working for Prism Comics, and to writing my own comics. And that led to writing for Comics Alliance for as long as I did, for about 8 years as the senior writer there, which was my full-time job in addition to making comics. But I got involved with Marvel Comics in mid to late 2014. My writing partner, Chad Bowers, and we had done an original graphic novel, which is just a big self-contained story, for Oni Press called Downset Fight. And it was very well received. It ended up being on the Young Adult Library Science Award shortlist of great graphic novels for teens. It won the Texas Library Association Award. It was a New York Public Library summer reading pick. And one of the things we had done when it came out was we went to Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle, and we gave a copy while we were there to Tom Brevoort, who is the executive editor of Marvel. And a few months later, someone asked him online, like on a Tumblr or a Formspring or something, what non-Marvel books he had been reading and enjoying, and he mentioned it. So then, later that year, Chad had been asking editors if they had any work for us, since Downset Fight was something that was out. And we were working on a couple of other things as well. But an editor that I had known just from following him on Twitter and talking about Sailor Moon, of all things, got in touch with us about writing for the X-Men. And that was Jordan White, and now we actually do a podcast about Sailor Moon. And he's been the editor on almost all of our Marvel stuff. X-Men 92, the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff that we've done, and Deadpool Bad Blood as well. Right now, Chad and I together are writing Sword Quest for Dynamite, which is based on the sort of real-life story behind an old Atari game from the early 80s. We just had Deadpool Bad Blood come out, which is an original graphic novel. It's the first ever original graphic novel for Deadpool. We did that with Rob Liefeld, who's the creator of Deadpool. He drew it, and we plotted it with him, and Chad and I did the script. And that was an amazing experience. We've also got a Guardians of the Galaxy annual coming up, and we're also doing Ash vs. Army of Darkness, also for Dynamite, which is a sort of reboot of the Army of Darkness comics, just jumping straight off the movie. And those have all been huge dream projects for us, except Sword Quest. Sword Quest was one that we hadn't really heard of before, but the real-life story behind it was so fascinating that we really wanted to jump into that. The thing that we always say at conventions to people who come to us and ask for advice on writing and making comics is that the hardest part of doing it is doing it. It's really easy to get together with your friends and talk about the stories that you would do if you could, the comics that you want to make. Talking about it is really easy. Sitting down and doing the work is the hard part, and unfortunately that's the part that you've got to do. And the best way to learn comics, in my experience, is to not just read them and not just study them and not just break them down and try and reverse engineer them, all of which are great tools and stuff that we've done, but to just make comics, to write scripts, if you can draw, to do page layouts. to work from a script, to get together with someone, to learn an artist's strengths. All of those are things you learn by doing. And that's the sort of toughest part of the job, but it's the only way that you can learn and make something and make something that's good enough for people to notice and see it. And that'll open doors for you. That happened with us with Downset Fight. And it happened with us even earlier when we were doing sort of comics that were more or less pitch comics. They were comics that, here's a story we'd love to do, here's the first issue. And a lot of those don't go anywhere, but they do open doors because people see them and they see what you can do. They see that you can actually make a comic and that you have that discipline. And that was really, really crucial for us. Chad and I try to do every con we can in the Southeast. You know, being from South Carolina and from North Carolina, I'm living up in Durham now, but we've just recently done Virginia Beach for the first time, which was an interesting show. We do the pretty much everything in North and South Carolina, NC Comic Con Bull City, which is in Durham, and that's in the fall, and NC Comic Con Oak City, which is in Raleigh in the spring. There's going to be a Greensboro show coming up in, I think, late summer, like August or September. There's going to be a show in Memphis that we're going to be doing in October or September, I think. It's Memphis Comic Con, so go on the website and check it out. But we've been waiting to do that one for a long time. I think that's as far north as we're getting. I don't think we're doing New York this year. But yeah, like we do. If there's a Comic Con in the Southeast and you don't see us on the website, call them up. Tell them you want Chris and Chad. Tell them you need to get those Deadpool signed. If you want to find out more about the things that I do, you can always go to the-isb.com. That's Invincible Super Blog. It's my website. And there'll be links there to all the comics I write. I also do a bunch of podcasts, because who doesn't these days, right? But also you can find links there to the comic book opinion writing that I've been doing for the past few years. That's all on the-isb.com. Check it out and maybe pick up some comics while you're there.